Hello everyone, welcome to QA Day 1. This is Karthik from iTeLearn. Thank you so much for being here. So we're going to get quickly started with today's agenda and what we're going to do. Now, there are a few things that I would like to set together before we get into the detailed training. We did a little orientation earlier. We kind of went through why software testing and so on, but now we will look at building up your capability in it, truly making you a software testing professional, which can scale you into multiple roles within the IT industry. So to get started, I'm going to take away from the PowerPoints. Now let's get straight into Google Drive. The reason I use Google Drive is so that whatever I do, I'm going to put them in there and you will be able to easily access and start interacting with. I'm going to create a first Google Doc and anything we discuss, I'm going to put it as notes. So let's say this is that day 1 notes. The font is too small. I'm going to quickly increase that. Let's say font is fine. Just going to zoom this. There you go. All right. So QA, quality assurance. Now, there are two approaches, team. There are a lot of terminologies and concepts. Okay. It is all about how to do certain things in a specific manner. So what we call as process, a process. So you will learn a lot of structure and a methodology. Now there are two ways to learn this. Very theoretical, which kind of gives you answering ability, but it doesn't give you anything concepts. The other is concept. That concept comes through a lot of focus and your attention. Now, while the sessions are going on, there are two recommendations that I'm strongly giving, please. One, only keep a notepad besides you. Okay. Do not do anything like don't send the system, don't try and repeat what I'm doing at the same time. Just be focused on what I'm teaching. Just take notes on the side and don't try and switch between windows and so on. The 1 hour you spend, very critical, because unless you go through this program in the way it is instructed, you wouldn't get the best benefits out of it. The second thing is, do not be in a hurry. Let's go very casually, slowly. Let's get our foundation correct. Once this concept is set with you, you can learn anything within any field. So your core foundation has to be set correctly. All right. So you need to be a lot of ability to listen to concepts as stories. All right. So we will try, when I say we, together as a team, look at projects as a storyboard where we understand and we try and do a lot of role plays. So the first and foremost thing is to understand the overall software development life cycle. This is very important. All right. It is something I'm sure you all heard a lot of times, but before we get there, we will talk about how this got built in the first place. And then when you come into your QA, quality assurance and software testing, how did it kind of seep in? I'm not going to go into the history about 25 years and talk about first computer applications and why they failed and why there was a need of testing. But let's look at any typical project. All right. We will look at what kind of projects, team, as we go on. These are all our IT projects. All right. Software. This is what we will look at, correct? Now, software. All this, the reason I'm writing it down, team, these words will start registering with you. When you go back, this document becomes an easy reference for you to know what has happened in that session. All right. Now, where do these projects start from? There should be a starting point for anything. Typically, if you look at these projects, the word IT or software got added later, but the concept of doing a project has been there phenomenally for a very long time. For some of us, projects only meant school projects that we do when we get our homeworks or we're given a special assignment. So there's a starting point, and the starting point is your first thing. That becomes either there is a need for something or there is a pain. A user has a pain and they find that there is a need that we should solve that pain. With that concept, they go forward. Let us take a simple example, team. All right. Now, when we talk about any kind of a project, I see, let us say we have a home. All right. You have a home which is 2 bedroom. Now, it is an existing place for you, but on that place, you want to do a project. What is the project? You want to do home improvement. All right. And for that home improvement, basically you're talking about, let us say, interiors. Very general concept, so you can relate to team. So we can come back to IT and software. So we're talking about need or pain for anything. Okay, starting point for any project work. So there's a intent, there's a need or a pain. They felt there's a need, there's a home, there's a family who said, let's improve. Now they will come up with what all do we want to do. They'll start listing them down. What is that list of expected things that I want to do? For example, in this case, they want to do new paints. They want to do new flooring, maybe overkill, maybe let's say, how about woodwork? And let's say they want to add lighting. This is the list of expected things. Now, what is this part of the entire project? This part, nothing but it becomes your requirements. What are the customer requirements? Unless we give the requirements clearly that here is what I want, then no human or a artificial intelligence system or an automation tool can do. So we need to mention that A, B, C, D, this is what we require. Once your requirements are clear, okay, there is very high level. What is a high level requirement? Okay, just telling me that I need new paint does not help me. I need low level. High level is at a 30,000 feet. Assume you're jumping out of a parachute from a airliner. Okay, when you look down at the world, you cannot really make out. You'll see the whole earth maybe, but as you get closer, you will look at the details of things. Everything will start coming up to you. High level means at a 30,000 feet, you don't have the total requirement. Now, what is a low level requirement in this case then? Very simple. One, you want paint. How much, where, what color, and um, we talk anything else, any other attributes that you want to keep adding. So woodwork, the same thing. Every requirement has to be primarily expanded. Now you assign this project to someone, they will start doing it. So the art of actually completing that task, the task completion, actual task, is what we call it as development. Okay, we are developing the project or we are implementing something. Now, after it is done, we start using it. So there is a need, there is a pain. One thing that gets started with. Now, then we have requirements that are clearly specified. I have not done that very much, but just assume that you go on expanding on this. Then the actual doing portion, which is called as development. We'll talk about it as development. We're developing something. What are we developing in this? New interiors. Okay. So anything you can talk about as a project, finally, it has to be developed. There is an idea, there is a clarity, there is an actual process of getting it completed, and then we start using it. Now, what happens during the usage? Okay, users are critical. Now they will say there are challenges or issues. What are they? Color not right, fit not right. Something could be going wrong in this house, the newly designed house, right? Lights don't work, whatever could be. From a small pin to a large catastrophic disaster that, this project went out of the toss. So at the end of every project, there should be kind of an assessment. Okay, what is the budget? What is the timeline? Did we do overall progress? How and so on. All right. And this is where your satisfaction comes. Let's say we spent 10, 1,000 USD in doing this home improvement. All right. And but our initial budget was 5K. We went to 10K. Initial estimation was 3 weeks. We went on to 8 weeks. Now, if you see, there is a certain thing that is happening. The user's satisfaction level becomes very, very critical. All right. Now, if anything gets pointed, let us say that budget went on, timeline affected, quality not good, paint coming out, all this will make us look to go back. Where did it all fail? Okay, my intent was correct. That was my idea. My requirements maybe were not documented well or something. And that is when they said, hey, you know what? Let us be more organized. Let us start documenting it. Document all the requirements. That is one. So that becomes your requirement document. What is my requirement document? It could be in a simple post-it that is written by your carpenter or handyman and given to you, but that's still a document. You may take a WhatsApp picture of it and send it to your spouse and say, you know what, this is what I'm doing, right? That is your overall requirement document. Now, the next document comes for the actual workers. So see, here comes someone else. There's someone else who's the one requesting. The requirements are being put together by the end user or the one who has the pain and the one vendor who's going to develop. And now the requirement documents are put together. Then comes more of a design document. All right. What is the design of the whole thing? How do we want it designed? In this case, there is a wall design or a painting design or a lighting design, aesthetics, and so on. In software, you will specifically look at the same thing as system design and things like system requirement specifications. Sorry, misspelled. System requirement specifications document. That gives us a lot of clarities. Okay. Lot more terms, team, that we will get to. Here is what I'll recommend. So we have already created the folder. In the same folder, I'm going to create another Google Sheet, and I'm just going to call this as terms and cheat sheet. Okay, that's a quick access for all of us. We have done this earlier too, but with once we start participating, we can do this well. Very simple. What is the term? What is the definition? Let's start with that. As simple as this. Okay. And maybe a good story explanation. Now, all this is focused on one topic. Of course, it's QA only, but I'll just put it so that it'll be easy for me to sort. So in QA, let us say we talk about something called as a SRS. What is SRS? It is a systems requirement specifications. Right now, the reason I'm writing this is together, all of us, hundreds of us, dozens of us, put this together. It will be a great document for you to refer back, especially before you get to interviews, team. You are, sometimes even the best of people will not be able to remember certain things. This is just a quick reference for you. So it's a good library that will combinedly build. I'm hoping all good so far. I'm going to pause for questions briefly in a few minutes. But meanwhile, let's go back to understand the whole point of where projects start. Okay. And I took a concept of a simple home improvement project that we all are aware. We all have homes, be it rental, own, whatever. And how do we go about and where things can fail? And then starts to dig back as to let's document it correctly. Sir, you have not given correct requirements. How am I going to go and do a good job? The blame game starts coming. You did it, I did it, you did it, I did it. And they felt development is necessary. Okay, I mean, development is necessary. It's the only thing that will create. That's the creation, right? This is where we're creating. And then there is being used. Then they said, you know what? Just before use, I want to make sure it is verified. Let's verify and see. Is this correct word for verify? As to how good is it so far? So we have kind of seen it so far. Maybe we have chance to go and correct it before the end user sees it and starts going berserk on feedback. See what I'm saying? And that is where came a lot of testing. Let's test whatever we produce. All right. I'll give you one of the simple things about software testing. There's so many terminologies in it, but do you know something called as a smoke test and how it kind of arised? You will then understand that testing has not started with IT. Testing was been there way back since. Um, I would say manufacturing was also late entry. I don't want to look into that, but what's a smoke test? Think about it. What is a smoke test? And where did it actually arise from? Very late back, maybe about 100 years back, when we were building these transformers, radio transformers and devices, all electrical things. In the factory, the workers used to take this device unit, simple ones, radio transformers and so on, plug it in, switch it on, and just smell for smoke and see, is there anything burning inside? All right. So if it's burning, you know what, something is bad, go ahead. They're not even seeing if it is working, does it play, everything else, that's different. Smoke coming, not coming, because that's a big hazard. So you try and see, you know what, can we save ourselves from the users, because they're critical and the satisfaction is very important. And that verification became in between becomes testing. So what did we start with, team? We started with a need or a pain. Okay, and then that need translated into a proper requirement, right? And that got well documented, or we did a good design. Once that design is good, we then went about building it. Okay, and then we want to test it, and then we want to give it to the end user. This is our whole project. Now, at the beginning, the need is totally our end user. They're the ones. And at the end, again, the users are the ones who are going to say, I like it, I don't like it. In between is all typically done by specialists. Like what in IT companies, all the top organizations are the ones who says, you know what, your customer could be anyone, could be a small storefront to a Fortune 5 organization. It could be anyone, but this process won't change. It starts with a need and it ends with an end user satisfaction. What is it? In between comes all our blocks: requirement, design, build, test. Okay. Now, let's take the same thing and kind of look at what is software development lifecycle, team. You understood the regular one. Now let's talk about software development lifecycle. Go back to the bold color. Now, what happens in a software project? Let's talk about a sample software project. Now, does it matter if it is in Java or .NET, or does it matter if it is in PHP or anything? It does not, right? So then why would it be so complicated? It is any sample software project, team. Let's talk about a simple web application. Okay, it could have been built on any technology, HTML, maybe C#, like with the .NET framework, pure Java related tools, a lot of things we could do, combinations, right? Or, you know, Angular, endless that keeps going for us. That is amazing. And I like being in IT field on this and today's space, team. It feels very nice. You can really build things with AI, artificial intelligence coming in, humongous possibilities of what softwares can start doing now. Okay. Let's go back. Now let's talk about a web application. What is a simple web application? A web application which, let us say, shows us some information. Let's talk about maybe something like xc.com, and I just want to see if it gives me the correct date. It's just a website. Someone has built it and so on. Now, where does the need start from? This basically becomes the initial starting point. A lot of times it is not emphasized. They say, give me the requirements document. Let's talk about initially the need. Now, I'm going to start looking at this as a sample application. And if this application is good, team, we can definitely take it to the, do a good project on it. Now, we will come to the domain of it. What does it do? What do we do on it? And so on. We will talk about your day one as a QA engineer in the next 5 minutes. Let's go back to finishing a software development life cycle. Okay. In this, maybe there is a requirement where we have to use a converter. Let us say I have a $500 and I want to convert it into British pounds. What would the result be? So the website is processing it and kind of giving us the result back. This is a good use. So what is it that need I have? Do a currency conversion. All right. So for the currency conversion, what are the requirements that we make? Requirements will still be the same. Then you come up with your design, and then you do the build or development, or what we also call as coding. And then we do the QA, quality assurance, where we do the primary verification and validation of any application. And then we do deployment. Ensure that the software, okay, it works nicely on one box like server. In my system it works. Let's ensure that it is working fine on the cloud. Let's take it correctly so nothing else is affected. And then you could have somewhere within part of QA itself, I'm kind of talking about UAT team. So QA kind of exemplifies a lot of scope into it. All right, simple software development lifecycle. Now let's talk about today's world. And what is software testing lifecycle? So again, see, I'm kind of drawing the same thing. There is need, and then we have a requirement, right? Sorry. And then we have a design, and then we have a build, and then we have, what did I say after that? Test. Yes, QA. Then we have our deployment, or that is what is called sometimes go live. Just put it on the website. This feature was not there earlier. Now they have developed and added it. Now, if you understand software testing lifecycle, where does it come out here? Let's just assume the timeline. This takes 2 weeks. This takes this takes 1 minute. Actually, it's a need. Requirements may take 2 weeks. Development, design will take maybe another 2 weeks. Build may take 6 weeks, and then finally QA is done for 2 weeks and deployment. So there is a challenge. Let's say 1 week here, and then we have 2 weeks for requirement. Another, let's say 1 week for design. See, there's no right or wrong in this. Sometimes we do things right, we estimate, but this is all comes from what the requirement is. QA is 3 weeks, and then finally half a week they'll deploy it. And this is how, let's just say, we've set things up. Now, if you observe, the job of a developer starts somewhere here. Okay, like, oh, you know what, I need to. But the QA activities is only starting once the build is ready. Why does QA start late? What do these members do in the meanwhile? That became important team. Now, why is QA important? Quality assurance, I just mentioned it very briefly, right? When you do any project, there are high chances of failures where anything in the process goes down. Any of these phases, not one phase, anything can go wrong anywhere. How sure are we? Now the question is, if it takes so long, and why does QA start late? Application must be ready. If the website is not ready for me to test, how will I test it? When will the app get ready? When? After development, right? So wow, we're sitting idle for almost 12 weeks. So then we start saying shift left. QA should not start here. QA should start from the beginning. Let us start being there way from the top. You know why? Because I want to know if the requirements are correct. Cool. I'll start doing my initial test planning. All right. I got the requirements. Correct, incorrect doesn't are available. How? could be nothing document. Remember team, what is requirements? It could be a phone call, it could be a WhatsApp message, it could be an email, or 1,000-page document. All right, but be ready to open your mind to these smarter, smaller teams that are working in a global manner, where they'll just send you a screenshot and say, this is the requirement. Don't, one of the first things I hear from the QA engineers, the very novice ones, beginner ones, what if I don't have a requirement document? We start crying very early in the cycle. Oh, that's fine, how else can I get the requirements? Let me hear. If it is not there, then we will start documenting it. Okay, now during the design, so I'm saying during the requirement, we're doing test planning. Requirements are available. However, we're doing the test plan. Design, they're making system requirements, specifications, and all that. We'll start creating all our test cases, test data, all our test artifacts, preparing it. Like what? Once the application is ready, I will get ready. I will be so, how do I say? I would try and be so prompt at this time that, so one of the advantages is this team. When QA starts, we will go all in. Okay. Now I want to write few more. QA activity starts. It is like mega busy team for everyone. Why? Bug finding, bug fixing, retesting, and it goes on and on. This is where something called as a go or no go decision is made. For what? The project. You know what? Very bad. If I leave the lighting like that, hanging in the home that we talked at home improvements as a mini project, it may hurt the kids. No go, absolutely. You know what? No, 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 no. This is unsafe. Let's fix it first. Go back. Okay, why did it lose down? All those things will come up. Now, so we want to be ready. Be perfectly ready when the QA button is hit. All right, when the red button is hit, okay, ready for QA. And how do you hear it? There's one word that will come up: ready for testing. And believe me, the feeling for a developer to say this is phenomenally awkward. They do know that there are instances where something could have gone wrong. They will still feel, wait a minute, can I get one more day? It is their confidence level. You know what? Okay, this is good. Go test it. And then we wait back as developers and see what has happened. So the shift left concept is basically saying QA has to be productive from the start. Okay. So QA is on the right side. We want to shift it towards the left side. All right. From where I may not be so lucky that the need comes, but if we build good relationships, we become QA positions in organizations are irreplaceable team. If you continue to have the good relationships with everyone in that cycle and an amazing domain knowledge, tools, technology, very easy. Core is domain and having good relationships there. And then we said, okay, requirements, let's start. That is shift left. We're saying we want to shift left. And I will talk about shift right, which will scare us as QA engineers and professionals, but we'll come to it. So you understood now what is shift left. I don't want to be waiting. I will hit the ground running, but at the start, what all can I do? So they said, when the design is going on, we will start preparing all this. When the development is going on, what do we do? And this is when a little bit of automation and so on will be coming up. But what we typically do is we prepare the QA environment. All right. And team, I've not written everything. You'll see missing gaps like, oh, test planning. Then where is the test plan document, strategy document, all these things? Slowly. We're not looking at completing the terms and cheat sheet. We're looking at getting the crux of it. Now we're preparing the QA environment. Great. Now QA starts, hit the ground running. We are well prepared. We know we have very little time, but now we will start going well. At this time, we don't want to have questions that, oh, you know what, I don't know about this functionality. That is the last thing you would want to know. If it is a core functionality that you need to look at to test, you need to be very, very well prepared, team, because now is the time where teams are kind of arguing development issue, deployment issue, QA issue, business analyst issue, DBA issue, hosting issue. Where are the issues coming from? Who has to take the blame? And when does QA take the blame? QA takes the blame if defects leak into the next phase. All right. So all tested, your home improvement is done. You come in and you open the cupboard, the woodwork, and it breaks. It didn't break during testing, but it broke during usage. Not correct. How? Wow, something wrong. And at that time, let's say injury happens to a human, then there's a lot of things that will fall onto us. Hence, QA is very important, team. Now, I don't know. I heard a voice in between. All good. I'm going to quickly check with the audience. I've been at least 30 minutes into the session. All good, everyone? Are you all with me? Are you able to hear me okay? Any questions or challenges so far? I'm kind of setting you up. Then we have a project. We will start talking like a QA engineer, okay, in the next few minutes. So I'm assuming all good and can continue then. All right, great. Thank you. Now, hence QA is critical. Why? If blame comes from the customer, now who is to say development problem? Okay, but what did QA do in between? You understand that critical. So an awesome QA engineer, from my perspective, very simple, team. I was telling you, one who's basically like a business analyst. They know the business. They have the domain knowledge. All right, domain knowledge. And they are amazing with people relationship. I can be a developer, not talk to anyone, and still be able to develop. I could be like a loner in life. But again, I'm just saying as a perspective, there are exceptions everywhere. But in general, a developer can do their job in solace, as a team. But a QA engineer has to go through everyone. Now they have a big thing. Is it deployed? Has the requirements come through? Has the documentation happened? There's a lot of things, and that is where your people relationship is important. And after which comes your skills, tools, process, maybe certifications, of course experience, and exposure. Very simple. What is the difference between experience and exposure, team? Experience is I have 5 years experience in Selenium. That is my experience. Exposure is I've been exposed to, let's say, multiple industries, different types of working model. I've worked on site, offshore. I had the great opportunity to meet the business teams, to meet the CXOs. That's an exposure. All right, experiences. What did you do in the project? Now this makes us an awesome QA engineer. All right, so far so good. Can we now get into something more of our project one details, like what do we do? It's a very simple role play, team. Now that you've kind of understood the criticality of why software testing is essential and how it kind of came up to be as a practice, we will now get into the depth of let me correct some English at least. What happened with this word? Conversion. Oh, okay, sorry. The actual process. So to get in with it, team, before the role play, before you talk about what is the application and all that, AUT will come to it. But first thing, let's assume that you are a QA engineer, or even better, let's say a QA intern. And today is your first day. All right. You are coming into a team, and the first thing you would understand is what all would you look into, team? What all would you like to know in your first day? Can people respond over the chat? We have a good audience. Can you kindly use the chat? What do you look for in the first day? What would you do? Once you get this clarity, team, you will learn in such a way that automatically your day one will be brilliant because you're starting for your day one. If you don't have a day one, you don't have a day 10. That's how you reach. Can the audience interact and start putting some questions, please? Day one, what do you expect? I'm getting responses now. Great. First thing is who is who. You want to know the people. You want to know then the teams, which is which team. And then you'll talk about application. See, about the company, you will know before you join, correct? That is something you already know. You know what? I got an opportunity with Pfizer or, Fidelity or GE. And you know that you're going there. But once you go there, this is what you look at. And you are trying to absorb this information. The most important thing is applications, and the other things is tech stack. What do they use? And then comes understanding their SDLC, STLC process. Things like, are they in agile practicing? Do they use Scrum methodologies, or do they have Six Sigma kind of approach? What are they? Just to get. I don't think you'll achieve all of them in day one, but this is what you'll get into. An exposure to who is who, the teams like dev, QA, you know who is in charge where, more like a simple org chart. Your BA team, your DBAs, your DevOps team, all right, your business team, all these teams. Very interesting it'll get, team, because imagine this. Even if you're taking, let us say, a position in Bangalore or Hyderabad, which is like a captive center, like an Amazon or Dell, and you're working in a remote facility, you have no interaction with someone on site, you still would need to know all about who is who that you're interacting, and your exposure is what will change everything, team. Now, if this is what it is, let us assume that it is just you and I for now on the first day. Okay, there's no one else. I'm going to introduce you to not the teams right away, but to the application, and talk about one most important thing, team. What is your R&R? Your primary as my roles and responsibility. Whenever you see the job description, that is what they talk about. What do we expect you to do? We expect you to interact with this team, execute tests, manage applications, ensure deployment is done on time, improve efficiency, bring stability to applications. Multiple things can get played on, right? That's the roles and responsibilities that will get explained. Now, the first thing is to understand the AUT, application under test. Now, this application is under test because it has been developed. So you would like to see or play around with what is existing. Just get your hands wet. So that's the first thing, team. And let's use this simple currency converter as a concept, as an application. I don't want to use login, log out, and all that. This is very easy for us to understand. Then we will build scenarios on that. We have a lot of time, team. There's a lot of test cases, scenarios, test steps, execution, defect reports, bug tracking, all this that we will keep doing in it. Now, let us go through this application very vividly. Let us assume that I'm your lead, you've joined for the first day, and I'm showcasing you what is this application, where is this application currently, what is the new development coming, what will your role be as a QA engineer. All right, this application is stable, it's been there for many years, but recently they're launching, this is still, let's say, test. This is a new feature that they're launching. So we talk about that feature, that functionality. Okay, in the application test, what is the feature or functionality? That is critical, team, because an application is primarily built around, do I have a normal drawing thing here? One second. Can I draw here? No, not on Google document. I can just use this. All right. Let us assume this box represents the entire website, team, the application that we are looking at. The whole features like tools, transferring money, currency data, converter widget apps, learn blog, so many features that are there is represented by this. This is your application under test. All right. Now, this application under test can be broken down for easier understanding into modules. And each module basically tells you that, hey, you know what the scope is for this module, or what we can do. For example, this is an admin module where users can help to log in, register, sign up, recover password. Let us say this is currency converter module, or this is the transfer modules. There could be your other affiliate modules and so on. It is endless, team. The amount of application size is all specific to that AUT. But primarily, you divide an application into multiple modules. Why? Because as you join this team as a QA engineer, I'm not going to give you the entire application and say, you test it, there's no one else. There may be 25, 30 other QA engineers. So each QA engineer is being assigned a specific module or a portion with it. Within each module comes our features or functionality. What does each module do? Okay, I'm not writing it here, but I will once we do it. For example, in a admin module, there is a user sign up, there is a user login, there is also a user log out, and there is a edit manage profile. These are the different features, or what sometimes we divide as submodules. The reason this division is very important is very simple. Go back to look at what your R&R is. You joined as the first day, your application and a test, you're looking at it. Within that, what is relevant to you? Now, unless each QA engineer starts looking at my task is important, this is where I need to be doing, then let me take, you don't focus on the whole thing. So we take, this is my portion. Oops, sorry. Let's say this is my portion. I am responsible only for this specific thing. And the same way, the 49 other QA engineers are taking care of other modules or features and functionalities within it. Now, these features or functionalities will further get divided into what we call as test scenarios or use cases or test cases. And in the next session, team, we will look at how to go about writing test cases, which is done for your QA engineer as a day one. And then one of the most important aspect of a QA engineer team, do you understand the ability to look at the application, know how it behaves, and document it correctly, so that even, and I use this word very cautiously, a fool like automation tool can use it, which is not smart. It doesn't have a human intelligence. It is just artificial intelligence. You just have to give it instructions. Your instructions actually for testing goes through your test scenarios, use cases, test cases. Okay. Now, when I say use cases, maybe you're not writing it, it's coming from a different team, but it's all part of testing artifacts team. All right. When an issue comes in the live after production, once it goes to the customer and then it starts to get blamed as to where it went wrong, we can easily come back and trace it and say, you know what, because you wrote this test scenario incorrect, your test case here did not cover that, or you did incomplete testing. So we are able to trace back and find out why that issue has happened. I'm just using it as an issue. I'm not saying it's a bug or a defect and classifying it. There's a challenge. There's some challenge. And as we go along, we will build the terms and cheat sheet, and you'll become a master QA engineer. There's no question. About 10 to 15 hours, team, you'll get all the things very well organized. Once we finish about 3 to 4 hours in this manual testing, in an Excel sheet, in a document, we'll start writing everything. Then we will go into the next level where we take a tool like either Jira or HPLM or any and start building it on there. Okay, and we will also talk about different documentations that are needed. What is the typical templates for each of these documents? We have fantastic libraries on the team. We will guide you. Do not jump in, stay with the concept, stay with the flow. It is more like a storytelling. Now, typically what I've seen is a lot of my students who come in, and attend this day 1, day 2, they would want to continue to watch, but you'll have to wait for the live schedule. As a good alternate, what you could do is go back to a previous live session like this at iTeLearn.com, and you could actually play it like your Netflix and binge watch them. And one of the recommendations when you're watching our e-learning tutorials team, don't try and do much of forward, rewind, pausing, repeat. Just listen to it as a story. Because even if you missed a key point in one message, we keep repeating the concepts. So it'll come up and build up as a story with you, which you won't forget. And that makes it easy for you to also talk about. I think I am good for the day 1. I would like to kind of open it up for any questions that any of you have. I'm gonna give it a break of about 2 minutes just to see if any questions are coming in. Thank you. Going on mute, team. All right, team. So for the tasks and assignments, I want you to fill the terms and cheat sheet that I showed you. I will have my team share this with everyone. Just put your name, please. All right. I would like to start knowing you by name because it's going to be a long journey, especially with JPACT. We need to really build each of you. And believe me, team, for me, once the interaction start and I'll start seeing your names, it stays for a while, and we can really connect at that time well. Okay, so task, that's the only thing for today. I don't want it to be too much about it. What will happen in day 2? Let's briefly look at it. We will start doing something like act like a tester. Okay, like, oh, you know what, now I need to really do something. Most importantly, team, will create a test case template and start writing. Everyone will write simple test cases. Team will write some awesome, amazing test cases. I'll show you the difference between bad test cases and good one. And once you send a test case to someone, it should be so awesome and perfect. There should be no reason that application should fail. If this test case has been tested, the application is perfect. So that is in our hands and our ability, team. So that is what we will get into. Maybe towards the day 5 or day 6, we will start looking at, oops, 5 by 6 it came up, 5 or 6. We'll start looking at, actually even earlier, team, we may start looking at test management tools. Now in this, okay, what did I want to do? Sorry. One more thing, test management tools, Excel. We will focus on MS Excel, team. Very important for you to have a good MS Excel skill. Everyone, you go to any organization, they'll finally export everything into MS Excel as reports. It's a standard thing. Excel is the only flattest, readable database, and everything else will become like JSON database or, your XML, not very human readable. Excel, perfectly, yes. Okay, so will be our first tool to build. Yeah, that's where we're starting. All right. All right, fantastic. Thank you, everyone. See you in day 2. Schedule for day 2. Yes. Now there is a slight communication, not a challenge or a gap, that I need to ascertain from when the day 2 will be. I think it will be tomorrow, but let me just get the rhythm together with our team and we'll communicate. See you in day 2, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Bye, everyone. Bye now. Take care. Bye all.